team news, has anything changed from the last fixture? And can you update us on some of those injuries you have at the moment?
So Amanda is back in the squad tomorrow, which is really good news. So basically the only two players who is not available is Kit Graham and Maite Oros. So everyone else is able to be in the squad.
Lovely, that's great to hear. Big game tomorrow, North London derby, a huge occasion. I guess, could you reflect on just what this fixture means and also the success you've previously had with it at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, winning your first North London derby?
Yeah, I think, moving from Sweden to England and London and North London, you realize how big this game is when you play the last season, and I think it's especially for our fans. It's coming from the history of the men's game as well, having this big game of North London and make sure we make it lily white. So I think we know how much it means. We saw last season how much it felt, and with the fans and everyone. And I think this season it's going to be even more fans, I think, and it's going to be really good to have that game, because it's what it's all about. It's the passion of beating your local opponent and make sure you're best in the city.
Arsenal women have had obviously a number of changes, the big one being Jonas Eidevall leaving a couple of weeks ago, and it looks like Renee as interim manager has really found her form with the club. I just wanted to get your thoughts on her as interim manager, and I guess how different you think this Arsenal side will be compared to what you faced before.
I think it's not too big difference. So in Sweden, when they worked together in Rosengård, they were obviously working together, and then when Jonas left, Renee took over. I went to pro license with her for 2 years, so I know her well, and I competed against her when she was in Rosengård. So she's a very, very good coach, and even if you call her an interim coach, she's a top quality coach. And you can tell that they play some good football now and winning with their great goals as well. So it's going to be a very tough game. On the other hand, we also know that they struggle some part of the games, and we know that when we are good, we can actually beat all the teams in this league. So it's just to make sure that we go for it, that we make sure we do everything we can to make sure it's our home stadium, that we want to go for it, and then we know that we can beat them. But on the other hand, we also know it's going to be a very tough game, so we need to be very sharp.
Was there anything in particular you learned about her when you were doing your license with her that you think would be quite handy?
I mean, if you meet the person as a person, I really like her as a person. She's a good person. Great knowledge, great former footballer as well. And then you see her as a coach when she won with Rosengård, and she makes the best of the team and how they perform. And then you see in Arsenal now that she also makes this team look good. Then you obviously know that she's a talented coach and a good person. So I only have good stuff to say about her because I like her as a person, as a coach.
And just looking at your side coming into this game, I know the Man City game didn't go that well, but I guess before that against West Ham, you really looked like you were finding your form after a few difficult fixtures. What can you expect coming into this game?
I think the West Ham game was a good result, but it was actually one of the most poor performances in this era of games. So in one way, we were playing quite good football part of the games against Man United and Chelsea, but we lost big numbers. Better result, not the best performance against West Ham. Trying to make sure we did both against Man City, but we failed after 20 seconds, and then it was mentally a tough game for us. So this time it's the home stadium. We're going to play in front of our fans. We're going to make sure that we keep the record we have at that stadium together. And I think to still be brave, to still be like playing our style, but also make sure that we are defending very well, that we take every duel we can, that we basically defend for the fans and for this club, and to make sure we have everything we can to win this game, even if we need to win by actually taking a lot of duels instead of playing the best football. But we're going to try to do both, but the main thing is it's a derby, and we're going to go everything we can to stop, to defend them and actually try to score some good goals.
Lovely. And just lastly from me, do you happen to be taking the tube into the game tomorrow? And I ask because Beth England is doing one of the voiceovers at White Hart Lane. I think it's some of the initiative that the FA have worked together with a number of clubs across the WSL. And it's obviously the first year that the WSL and the Championship teams are going to be playing at their main stadiums, all respectively, through this weekend. So lots of big things happening in women's sport at the moment. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that and how you feel like the game is really moving forward and capitalising on moments like this when we do have the international breaks.
I think when when I went into women's football and I see the potential in it, and we speak about it all the time, and then we see these games sometimes, but finally we have a weekend where everybody's playing on the big stadiums, and I hear a lot of fans are coming to all these games in both divisions, and I just feel like now we are actually living in the present where we actually have the potential and it's delivered, right? So I just hope it's going to be a really good weekend with a lot of good games, a lot of fans enjoying the football. Women's football weekend, not so much club football for the men's game, it's actually the women's football, and I just feel like it's going to be great to make sure they can be on the stage and in the television and everything to be shown in the light, because I think they deserve it and they are here to stay. So I just love that we are at the big stadiums.
Lovely, thank you. Best of luck.
Thanks.
Okay, we will pass the mic to Katie.
Hi Robert, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
So after last week's defeat against Manchester City, what are the conversations being had around improvement in the squad? In particular, are we expecting to see a change in that backline tomorrow?
I mean, if you look at the start of last game was obviously a tough one, because then you all of a sudden mentally need to rethink the game structure and the plan we had. And also when you play at that stadium with that start, you also need to make sure that the self-confidence, you lose it a little bit. But also, I trust the players we have. I think they are great players. Sometimes you do mistakes. So for me to just, change all the starting 11 or something like that, I'm not that kind of a coach. But then of course we get some few players back now, so we have a good competition for the starting 11 this game and finishers as well. A really strong squad. But it's come down to make sure we don't do so easy mistakes, because when you do those mistakes, the top teams are too good, then we lose the games. So we need to reduce the mistakes, still be brave, but also we need to be a little bit more sharp in the last third, because we had a few good moments in the first half against Man City where we could have actually got ourselves back in the game, but we didn't end up finishing in a good way. So it's a mixture of everything, but look, we have a run of stuff where we're doing good stuff and some more poor stuff, but tomorrow we're going to try to make sure we reduce the mistakes and are still brave and attacking football.
When playing matches against top teams like Manchester City, you almost know what to expect going in. How does this differ when managing expectations of an opponent with more of an inconsistent form, such as Arsenal at the minute?
I think even if they have had some ups and downs in result-wise, they've been quite good in the games. They have been competing, and I think the last two games they've had is 5-0 and 4-0 against quite good opponents. So I actually expect them to look very good Arsenal tomorrow, because they have some really good structure in that team. Obviously we played 3 times against them last season, and I actually think we had 3 good games against them. We drew 1, we had 1 win and we had 1 loss, but it was 1-0 at Emirates. So we know that we can handle their players and how we can handle their players, and I know that when we are having a good day, we are really good. So I'm not thinking that we're going to have an easy game tomorrow. I'm actually thinking we're going to have a really tough game, but I actually want that, because it's a top team we play against, and I think the players, we want to practice that to make sure we get to the level where we should be dictating against them. So it's going to be a tough game, but I know that we can beat them, and we're going to go everything we can to do it.
Prior to the fixture last season, you were asked how you felt about the rivalry between the two clubs within the women's game. Following on from that historic win last season, have you seen an increase in the rivalry during the North London derby?
I think if you look at the men's game and how they have that rivalry, it's spin on us, right? We realize that it's a big thing. You can see in social media the players learning that you shouldn't post anything with the opponent and everything, because it's a big rivalry. And I think you're being taught that that's the history of North London to do that, and I just love that. I think you should have that competition, and we have it in the women's game as well. The biggest change here that the women's team is quite young for Tottenham, while the women's team for Arsenal is been around for a long time. So to compete with them is a little bit harder than for the men's team, to be honest, because we still are upcoming as a semi-professional, becoming a professional and trying to beat them, but they have already been in the top for many years. On the other hand, people expect us to compete with them already now, and we showed last season that we can do it anyway, but I think it's like we understand that they are much more on the highest stage in the women's football for a long time, and we've just been there for a short time, but we still know that we can compete against them, and we still know that the fans want us to win tomorrow, so we're going to go for that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll move to questions on the online feed. Coming first to Jamie.
Hey Robert, nice to see you. Just wanted to ask Robert, obviously Arsenal have had a bit of a turbulent start to the season, they're finding form now. There's no good time to play these kind of derbies, but is this perhaps a worse time to play Arsenal than it would have been a couple of weeks ago when they were struggling a bit more? I can say whatever there and say why is a good answer, but I think the main thing for us is that we
we don't need to worry too much about their form, because when you play a derby against Arsenal, you know that we're going to be really sharp. We're going to do everything we can to win this game. I think they still are in a phase where they have an interim coach, where they have finding ways. They have some really good results the other two games, but on the other hand, it's still like if we win tomorrow, they have a big problem in the league, so they still have some kind of pressure on them as well. So I actually think it's a quite good opportunity to play against them, because they still have an interim coach. They still are in a phase where they need to chase teams in the table, and we are just going to give everything we can to try to win this game, even if nobody perhaps expects us to win the game. And I think that's the underdog thing can be a good thing for us.
And just on the fans and the atmosphere, Robert, obviously going back to White Hart Lane tomorrow, coming off the back of winning that derby at White Hart Lane last year, how big is that for the team? Obviously, coming into this game knowing that you can do it at the Lane, and also knowing that the fans can do it, and bringing these kind of fans into these occasions. And how important is a game like this to continue the growth of the fan base?
I think it's a way for us to measure our growth with fan base and at being at the stadium. So the win last season was absolutely brilliant, but it was also the atmosphere with the fans at that game. To get that momentum together, to win against them with the fans, is how you build a fan base. That's how you build a momentum to take the next step. I'm quite sure we're going to have even more fans tomorrow than last season. If we win the game, we're going to keep building that momentum to create a bigger fan base. If we struggle tomorrow, we're still going to do everything we can to make sure that they are behind us, and then we're going to still grow in the fan base. Look, we want to be at that stadium more and more games. We want to make sure the fans come to these games, and I feel like these are the moments you work so hard to reach. I mean, we're going to play in front of 25,000-30,000 people tomorrow against Arsenal with Tottenham Hotspur. It's like, we need to remember that. That's like top when you summarize your career afterwards. So it's going to be amazing.
And just last one from me, Robert. Obviously, you came to the club with a big attacking identity, and we saw that pay off a lot last season, obviously making it to the FA Cup final, and maybe this side of the season is to be expected, a little bit more rocky. You're still transitioning, but just what's your message to the fans? Because maybe we've seen some hesitancy in the fan base on how Tottenham are adapting to the style of football. But just what's your message to the fans, kind of stick with us and this style of football?
I think it's a emotional roller coaster sometimes when you look at the result and how it goes. If you look at the attacking football, we score more goals this season than last season. So the attacking style is actually there. We are one of the teams in the league that score most goals. But we receive a lot of goals as well, and that's why we don't win a lot of games right now. But the journey we are on is started last season with a lot of staff, players, fans coming to the games, liking what we're doing. Having that quite big success with the FA Cup and top 6 was good. It was really good actually, and then you have bigger expectations. But a lot of investment last season was to build a squad, a starting 11 that was really talented, and then. To be honest, we had Grace Clinton and Celine Bissett, for example, last season, who were key players, and we invested a lot of time on them. We lost them, and then we signed new players for this season to try to make sure we can take the next step. Those players were injured in the first games, which mean that we kind of went back one step to make sure we can take 2 steps in forward, right? And we played against the top 5 teams, 3 of them away as well, which more also like, okay, we're not really ready to win those games yet. So if you look at only result-wise, yes, it doesn't look amazing. But if you look at everything with that and the journey you need to do to reach the top, then you also can be... I hope that everybody can realize that sometimes you need to do 1 step down to take 2 steps up, because there's no way you can reach the hill of a mountain if you don't go around it and back for... you need to do that. So it's like, for me, it's fine. We know what we're doing. We're learning so much even if we lose. And for me, it's okay that the fans are upset or not happy when we lose, because that's the mentality we want to have. But we just want to stick together with them, because I just want to make sure that they know and believe in it for a long time. And that's why we want to show tomorrow that no matter winning or losing, we're going to do everything we can to compete against Arsenal. And winning or losing, we're going to take another step the week after. But it's okay for them to be upset. I want them to be upset, because I want them to have a winning mentality, and I want them to be, pushing us to the top. So it's totally fine.
Thanks, Robert. That's great. Best of luck.
Cheers.
Thanks, Jamie. Alex.
Afternoon, Robert. I just wanted to ask a bit about Mark Thomas. She hasn't scored for Spurs this season, but I'm sure you need no reminder that obviously last season against Arsenal she scored a winner, and she also scored arguably the biggest goal in the club's history against Leicester. We're a match tomorrow where it's like high pressure, big moment. Is she the kind of player that you look to maybe step up and score that kind of crucial goal right when you need it?
Yeah, I think when you look at big games on big stadiums, it's hard to say who's gonna do the like that decision making. But I think last season Martha was one of those key players in those moments who did it for us. But you know, Jessica Nass had a few really good moments, and other players as well. But obviously Martha is somebody who can do that because she has the quality. But we also have other players. I think for this season, like Hayley Raso is one of those players who's been on the big stage for many years. She can do it. Beth in England is normally, a big game player as well. So I think she will also soon find a way to score those goals that she did the 2 seasons ago. And then you have so many different characters in this team that can do it. So Martha Thomas definitely one of them. But there's so much potential in this group. We just need to make sure we find ways for them to grow and do it. So no matter who is going to do it tomorrow, I'm just going to be happy for the team.
And you mentioned England there. And how she loves kind of the big occasion. Obviously, last season at Henry Arsenal she played, but she wasn't really fully fit compared to now. Now she's kind of up and running for the season, playing pretty well in the final third. How much do you think she's going to enjoy tomorrow's occasion, walking out as captain at Hospital Stadium?
I can guarantee that she's going to love it because she's that kind of player who likes the pressure and who loves to be in the centrum of that and also to lead the team. I think she's taking steps this season from last season to get back in her old shape. I think she's finding ways to score goals in different areas in different ways. I think her link-up play has been better and better as well. So I think she's one of those tomorrow who's going to lead the team and have a great impact on the game.
Thank you. Best of luck tomorrow.
Cheers.
Dan Pentland.
Hey Robert, hope you're well. You mentioned about Arsenal, obviously the 4-0 and the 5-0. Obviously the goals are really kind of spread throughout the team across a number of goal scorers. So how do you kind of manage that? Because they're a team who've got players scoring from everywhere at the minute.
I mean, we know them very well. Those players they have. Stina Blackstenius have coached, for example. Rosa Kafadia have coached. Other players they have that can score different ways. So of course we have different scenarios of how they play in their roles depending on who's starting the game. So we have the individual feedback to the players and everything. But the main thing with those players that they have so many good players is that you need to be defending together. I think Juve went player by player against them, and I think obviously you can do that, but it's also if you lose one duel, they have the quality to score from those positions. So for us, it's all about actually defending together, make sure we are a collective and make sure we can have each other's backs. So if you fail in the press or if you fail in 1-against-1, you have your teammate behind you who can step in and take over that. So I think no matter who the players are that they start with or come on with, we're going to defend together and make sure we have a team performance that basically destroy their attacking football.
Bit of a strange one, Robert, but I just wanted to ask, are you kind of superstitious or, do you believe in history repeating itself? Because I think last year, kind of the league game before the Arsenal game was a 4-0 defeat, and we all know what happened after that against Man United. And, same obviously happened against Manchester City last week. Do you believe that history can repeat itself and you'll get the win this weekend?
I believe history can repeat itself, but I don't believe in anything about luck or that you cannot say that out loud because then you jinx it. It's like, no, you can say whatever you want because the performance is the thing tomorrow. There's nothing more than the performance that will make sure we win the game tomorrow. And I know the trainings this week has been, the place has been brilliant, how they act to tactics, how they train well, how they compete. So I just need to make sure we believe in it and go really hard on it. Then you never know if you're going to win or lose, but we're going to have a great chance to win the game tomorrow if we reach the level where we want to reach and if we reach a level where we also do it together. So, and it's going to be a brilliant day for women's football and it's going to be an amazing game, and winning or losing, we're just going to take the momentum from that and make sure we're still building this team to the top.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Robert. Best of luck. Thank you.
Cheers.
Rachel.
Hi, Robert. Can I ask you about another player, Molly Bartrick? You used her last week as a defensive midfielder, and I know there were rumours that that's where she played a little bit in the pre-season as well. How do you see that? Is that a long-term role or is that just an emergency backup?
At the pre-season it was an emergency backup because we didn't have players, and I thought that she is so good footballer. She can handle the ball in tight areas. She's very intelligent. But then when you look at the personnel, you have injuries, you have different players that are really strong. And then when we went to this game against Man City, it was different choices. But when you saw Luana coming back from the national team, having a great game, and what kind of game we expected against Man City, so then we took a decision to play her up there and then play Luana. And in one way, perhaps, okay, we moved one really good centre-back away from the starting 11 to play as a 6. On the other hand, I think she was the best player on the pitch as a 6, and I think Luana did a good game as well. So it's like, right or wrong, you can pick and choose if you feel that or not. But Molly is a brilliant player who can handle both positions, and you know what, she can probably be a 6 in a long time plan as well. But obviously, Might is injured and different scenarios, different games. But she's a great footballer and a great character, and I just love working with her.
That's great to hear. And you mentioned Mighty, and I guess one of the things that is kind of noticeable as well is she was obviously very central to the way in which the team played and passed the ball in the first few games. And the passing, which is something that you really improved when you came into the club, seems to have dropped off a little bit in terms of some of the sort of data around it and sort of what we can see. Is that something you've been working on, or do you just think it's these top teams who press very hard? What do you think's happening there?
I think it's a mixture of the result of the games and self-confidence and the tough games away against top teams and quality. When you want to have a dictation and when you have a really good possession and movement, it's also part of who is the key players who can handle the ball and make sure we get the ball to the right spaces and everything. And last season, I think actually Grace Clinton was one of the key players to be very brave on the ball. So when we had a build-up, we can play her and she can turn away from the players and drive the ball to the next space. So the players around her was really good in the build-up, but the exit point was that we can deliver the ball to her in really tight areas and she could carry the ball forward. Now we're trying back and forth a little bit, and when Mighty came, she was dictating the game a little bit lower, but then she could actually connect with the players in front of them as well. When she was lost, we have trying to find the right rhythm and balance, and in that period of time, we also had some bad results. And no matter if it's the best player in the world or the worst player in the world, if you don't have the best self-confidence, you're also going to lose a little bit of the quality in your first touch or the decision making. And I think that's the main thing. And okay, how do you get it back then? So it's like, we're going to be brave, we're going to make sure we do it, but you also need to make sure you reduce the errors you have. So the mixture of that, but also to make Mighty come back in a team is big things for us, right? So it's a mixture. I still see some really good stuff. Like the first half against Chelsea is a really good build-up, a really good bravery in the build-up and everything. So we are not bad all the time in the games, but we are punished quite toughly in some phases of the game. And then in the end of a game, when you're down by 2 goals, it's not many teams that are looking great in those areas. And on the other hand, if you're up with 2 goals, then you look really sharp just because you have the self-confidence. So, I mean, it's a very tight game sometimes. And if you have 2 leads up, then you're going to play your best football. And if you're 2 goals down, you're not going to do it. So it's a connection to the result as well. But on the other hand, I see what they do in training so many times, and I see the skills they have. So it's more like you're gonna see it come back, and you're gonna see how they can be so good on the ball. But it's a mixture of personnel and result, I would say.
That's really interesting. Thank you. Can I just also ask you you talked a little bit about the defence, and one of the places where I know, not just under you, but for a long time Spurs have struggled a little bit is aerial challenges, and we know that Arsenal have a habit of putting in a lot of crosses. So is this something that you have been thinking about working on? Yeah,
I mean, I think last season we had a few bad games with exactly that. I think Man City away was one of those, and we started to focus quite much on box defending and the shape of that and the position-wise in that, but also how we act in those positions as well. I think we had a better run with that in the end of last season. If you look at the men's game, quite many goals end up on the second post in that area. So it's, of course, you should have people there, but you also need to act in a certain way so you don't make them score the goals in that space. If you look at our defending, the other game and so on, so of course it's a mixture of how you handle it and so on, but it's a big thing we work on after, especially Man United away. But it doesn't really matter sometimes when you work really hard, because sometimes the opponent is really strong, really good, and once again, decision making and everything. But one thing is clear, we need to take steps there, because box defending and this league is something like a lot of teams cross a lot of teams have a big striker who is strong in the box, so we need to develop our strength and how to defend. You don't need to win the duel, you need to make sure you don't lose the duel. So a draw can be good, for example. So you need to find ways to grab your opponent without creating a penalty, and then just make sure that the ball just doesn't touch anyone, basically.
Thank you, and good luck.
Cheers.
Chris?
Hi Robert, hope you're well. Just wondered what the mood in the camp is like at the moment, because of course 4 defeats in the last 5 WSL games, and would you say it's probably your toughest run and toughest period as Spurs boss so far?
Yeah, I mean, result-wise, it's not good results, and I think people are, of course, feelings is connected to how you perform result-wise. So I can say here every week that we play some good football or we develop, blah, blah, blah. But yes, it's of course not the easiest every time to just have the great energy. But that's what's so good with this team and this squad and the staff and everybody around it, because I feel like we're very upset after the game. We have some good talks, and then we get back 2 days after and have a reflection, and it's still quite, high roof when we have discussions. So as we say in Sweden, like, we can actually have some really good discussions. But from that, we try to find some really good ways forward from that and how we're going to improve. And then we go out on the training field, we train very well, and the energy and the happiness is back again, and then we fight really well, and then you have this strong belief that the next game should be a success, and then we go into that game, and you need to have that every week, no matter if you win or lose, because it's always a new game, it's always a new chance to be better and win games. But we have sports psychologists, we have a strong experienced team, we have technical staff around me as well, we have players with leadership, we have experienced players. Everybody's helping out to make sure we don't go on the road where we just feel like everything is bad. So you would be surprised if you were around us this week, because the group has been amazing and actually just focusing on this game and look forward to this game, and I'm really impressed by that, actually.
Well, of course, the emphasis has always been since your arrival about the attacking, but when you concede 16 goals in the last 5 WSL games, has more time gone into the defensive side of the game on the training pitch, would you say, in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I want to have a approach of my identity to be attacking, and Tottenham want to have it, but we don't want to lose games. We don't want to look stupid with big losses. So yes, absolutely, we have more and more focus on the press and how to defend a little bit lower, and also to make sure when we have the ball, where should we risk it more or less, just to make sure we don't give the opponent too many chances. So yeah, we're absolutely focusing quite much on that, especially when we play the top teams. But then you cannot forget about the attacking as well, because like Rachel said, the way we want to play, we cannot lose it just because we need to defend now. So we need to find a balance, and we need to be brave. And we're going to be brave tomorrow as well in the build-up and how we want to play, because you never go from your identity, because then you're lost. I'm never going to go from that, but I need to adapt to make sure we can handle the games. But you will see an attacking team that's going to find a game plan to try to win tomorrow, and hopefully we can score a similar goal like last season, and then I'm going to be very proud.
Thanks a lot, thank you.
Cheers.
Charlotte?
Hi, Rachel talks about the changes you've made in kind of the defence and midfield bit with Molly Bartrup and so on. I wanted to pick on actually the changes in attack, because we've seen Beth England, Martha Thomas and Jess Naz all do different roles in different games. You told us that you see Jess Naz being a number 9 at some point in her career. You think she can do that role. You've seen Beth England dropping back in other games. What's kind of the approach going to be tomorrow, and what do you think it will be going forward with that front line?
I think it's a mixture of their strength and the matter of, if we have other injuries, how you want to pick and choose the players in the squad that are most suitable to have a good game. I'm not a big fan of moving people around, but sometimes you need to do it to make sure you have the best starting 11 for that game. Last game we had a plan with Jessica Naz as a 9 to make sure when we won the ball to be more direct in behind. Obviously it didn't work out, so we needed to change that. And then it's different, style before we are that team that dominate every game. In Häcken it was easier to pick and choose because we were so dominant. So every game-ish we were dictating. We could actually choose the players to make sure the perfect way of the game model I have. Here you need to adapt because you have players and you have an opponent who sometimes is basically better than us. So we need to have a game plan that we can hurt them and find ways to get to the top. So the mixture of moving them around sometimes is connected to, one is the game plan and who we play against, and two, the performance. So it's easier to play a player in the same position 6 games in a row if they score goals, for example. But if the 9 doesn't score goals, you need to perhaps find new ways to motivate them or start them on the bench to come on and get the self-confidence. So it's a mixture of everything, and it's not always black and white who's the best player. It's some self-confidence, it's some tactics and other injuries. But if you look at the squad we have, all the 3 of them are a 9, if you ask me. The most suitable wingers for them is Jessica Nass because she's been there a lot. Beth and Martha is clever players who can adapt to different roles, but those 2 are number 9s in my world. But sometimes they need to handle the new role just because the balance of the team and the starting 11. But those 2 are number 9s. Jessica Nass is 50-50, 9 and a winger, I would say, and that's what we have and working with right now. And hopefully we can find ways to build all the 3 of them up to score more goals because we need more goals.
Are you changing your opinion somewhat in whether Martha Thomas and Beth England can play together? You've said you don't think there can be particularly a frontline partnership together. Has anything over the last couple of weeks changed your mind on that?
If I'm like the ideal world, how I want to play with a 4-2-3-1 and a 10 and a 9, no, they shouldn't play together because then they are the number 9. The 10 role is something different I'm looking for. They are very clever players though, so they can defend together, they can find ways to score goals together, but as a 9 and 10, I don't think they are the perfect match. I think when you have Jessica Nass as a 9, both of them can play 10 behind her because Jessica can create that space for them to make sure they can use their intelligence. But they can play together. I mean, we have scored goals when Martha's been on the winger and Beth has been in the 9 or the opposite, so of course they can play together. But if you look at the perfect starting 11 for this team, they will probably compete for the 9 role and play starting or coming on, and then you have other players with other strength that match that level, especially in the future when we get to the point where we are more dominant in the games.